Snow flurries danced in the biting wind, spiraling behind the stagecoach as it creaked to a halt in front of Silver Creek's general store. Lin Mai clutched her worn carpet bag tighter, peering through the frosted window at the small frontier town buried under a fresh layer of December white. At 38, with jet-black hair pulled into a severe bun and eyes that held the weight of too many goodbyes, she was a stark contrast to the rugged landscape. She stepped down from the coach, the icy air instantly cutting through the thin silk of her light-colored traditional cheongsam. It was the only dignified garment she had left, a remnant of a life in San Francisco that had evaporated along with her late husband's fortune and health. The town stretched before her, a single rutted street lined with buildings huddled against the cold. The Mercantile, a saloon, and a boarding house stood grimly against the backdrop of mountains shrouded in winter mist. Lin Mai shivered, aware of how foreign she looked. Several men lounging near the saloon stared openly, their breath misting in the air, expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility. A woman alone in the West was rare, a Chinese widow with refined manners and no coat was an anomaly. Straightening her spine against the cold, she walked toward the general store. The advertisement, folded carefully in her sleeve, felt heavy against her wrist. Double Bar Ranch seeks cook. Room and board provided. Inquire at Abernathy's general store. A bell jingled as she pushed open the door. The interior was dim and smelled of sawdust and coffee. Behind the counter, a balding man with wire-rimmed spectacles looked up. "Help you, miss?" His tone was guarded. "I am inquiring about the position at the Double Bar Ranch," Lin Mai said, her English crisp and accented. She placed the advertisement on the counter. Mr. Abernathy looked from the paper to her shivering form. "That ad's been up for months." "But the Double Bar? It's rough country. Ethan Cole runs it. It's 20 miles out, and frankly, miss, you don't look dressed for a winter ride, let alone ranch work." "I assure you, Mr. Abernathy, I am capable," Lin Mai lied smoothly. In San Francisco, she had servants. But desperation was a powerful teacher. "I have no family, no money, and nowhere else to go. I need this position." The door opened behind her, letting in a gust of snow. A tall man stomped his boots, shaking off the white powder. He was broad-shouldered, wearing a heavy shearling coat and a Stetson pulled low. His face was weathered, eyes the color of steel. "Supplies ready, Abernathy?" the man asked, his voice a deep rumble. "Just about, Ethan," the storekeeper said, looking nervous. "This lady is here about the cook job." Ethan Cole turned, his gaze sweeping over Lin Mai. He took in the delicate cheongsam, the city shoes, and the carpet bag. "You ever cook for 15 men in a blizzard?" "No, Mr. Cole. But I am willing to learn. I need a cook, not a student. It's hard work." Up at 4, wood stove, hauling water, he turned back to the counter. "Not a place for a lady, especially not one dressed like that." "My husband died 3 months ago," Lin Mai said, her voice steady despite the cold seeping into her bones. "I sold everything to pay his debts. I have slept in train stations and eaten charity scraps. I am stronger than I appear, Mr. Cole. And I suspect you are desperate, or the position would not still be vacant." Ethan paused, looking at her again. He saw the steel behind her dark eyes. "Can you ride a wagon without complaining?" "I can." "Pack your things. We leave in 10 minutes." He started to walk away, then stopped. The last cook walked off into the snow because the silence drove him mad. "It's a lonely life. My men are good, but they're rough. They haven't seen a woman in 6 months. You keep to the kitchen and your quarters." "Understood." "One more thing," Ethan said, his eyes narrowing slightly. "You said you're willing to learn. Are you willing to laugh?" "Excuse me." "The ranch. It's a hard place. It breaks spirits. I don't just need food on the table, I need life in that house. Can you cook with laughter? Can you bring something besides sustenance to that kitchen?" Lin Mai thought of the empty, silent months since her husband passed. "I believe I can try, Mr. Cole. We'll see." 1-week trial. If you can't hack it, you come back on the next supply run. The wagon ride was an ordeal of endurance. The landscape was a blinding sea of white, broken only by skeleton trees. Linmai wrapped herself in a scratchy wool blanket Ethan had tossed her, but the cold still found its way in. Ethan spoke little, guiding the horses with practiced ease. When they finally crested a hill, the double-bar ranch appeared in a snowy bowl, a main log house, a barn, and a bunkhouse, all looking isolated and severe. "That's it," Ethan said. "Home sweet home." He pulled up to the main house. "Wait here," he returned with a young cowboy who looked no older than 20. "Toby, take Mrs. Lynn's bag to the kitchen quarters." Linmai climbed down, her legs stiff. She entered the kitchen and stopped. It was large, dominated by a massive black iron stove that looked like a sleeping beast. The room was clean but utterly sterile. No curtains, no warmth, no soul. "Dinner is at 6, Ethan said, standing in the doorway. "Stew ingredients are in the pantry. Good luck." Alone, Linmai tied an apron over her cheongsam. She had 4 hours. She found beef, potatoes, and onions. The stove was her first enemy. It took 3 tries and a fair amount of coughing to get the fire lit. Chopping vegetables with dulled knives blistered her hands, but she persisted. She found a jar of dried herbs and, taking a risk, added star anise she had saved in her bag, a tiny piece of her heritage. By 6 o'clock, she had a bubbling pot of stew and biscuits that were slightly charred on the bottom. The cowboys filed in, stomp dragging snow off their boots. They fell silent when they saw her. "Gentlemen," Ethan announced, taking the head of the table. "This is Mrs. Lynn. Mind your manners." The men ate voraciously. Linmai watched nervously. Finally, Toby wiped his mouth. "This stew. It tastes different. Good different. What's in it?" "Just a little spice from home," she said softly. Ethan ate silently, his eyes watching her. Afterward, he approached her at the stove. Biscuits were burnt. "The oven runs hot on the right," she countered. "I will adjust tomorrow." The stew was good, he admitted. But the kitchen is still quiet. Rome was not built in a day, Mr. Cole. Nor is laughter manufactured on command. The week passed in a blur of exhaustion. Linmai woke before dawn, breaking the ice on the water barrel. She learned the stove's temperament. She scrubbed the floors and mended the men's torn shirts in the evenings. She was surviving, but just barely. The second morning, disaster struck. She was rushing to prepare breakfast when she slipped on a patch of water she'd spilled. The tray of eggs went flying, and the coffee pot boiled over, extinguishing the fire. "Damnation," she hissed in Cantonese. "Language, Mrs. Lynn," Ethan's voice came from the doorway. He was dressed for work, looking amused. "I apologize. I am failing. You're learning." Here he stepped forward, taking the poker. "Bank the coals like this. And for the eggs, scramble them. It's faster and the men don't care about presentation." They worked side by side for a moment, an unexpected rhythm forming. It was the first crack in the wall between them. A few days later, a commotion in the yard drew her out. 2 men were carrying Toby. His face was grey with pain. "Horse kicked him," Ethan said grimly. "Arms broken." "Bring him to the kitchen," Linmai ordered, her voice changing from servant to commander. "I need straight wood for splints and clean cloth." "We need to get him to the dock in town," Ethan said. "In this snow?" "He will go into shock before you get halfway there," Linmai argued. "My father was a traditional healer. I can set the bone." Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Do it." Linmai worked with precision. She mixed a poultice from herbs in her bag for the pain and set the bone with a snap that made Toby yelp. She bound it tight. "Keep it elevated," she told the pale boy. "I will make you ginger tea for the pain." Ethan watched her, a look of newfound respect in his eyes. Where did a merchant's wife learn that? My father believed knowledge was better than a dowry, she said, wiping her hands. Well, Ethan said, I reckon you just saved us a dangerous trip. Thank you. That night, Lin Mai served apple pie. She had found the recipe in an old, dust-covered book in the pantry. When she placed it on the table, the tired men cheered. Pie! Toby yelled, waving his good arm. I think I'm in love. Get in line, another cowboy, Gus, grunted. Even Ethan smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his face. Not bad, Mrs. Lin. Not bad at all. It is a little tart, she critiqued. It is perfect, Ethan said. And listen. The kitchen isn't silent anymore. She listened. The men were joking, teasing Toby, complimenting the food. The cold room felt warm. You asked for laughter, she said to Ethan. And you delivered. As Christmas approached, the ranch transformed. Lin Mai sewed curtains from spare fabric. She placed evergreen boughs on the mantel. The bond between her and the rancher grew in the quiet moments, morning coffee before the crew woke, evenings where he worked on ledgers and she mended clothes. She learned of his tragedy. His wife and daughter had died of fever years ago while he was away on a cattle drive. He had punished himself with isolation ever since. That is why you hate the silence, she said one evening. It reminds me of what I lost, he admitted, staring into the fire. But lately, the ghosts haven't been so loud. We must make room for the living, Lin Mai said gently. Grief is love with nowhere to go. You must give it a new direction. Ethan looked at her, seeing not a cook, but a woman of immense strength and grace. There is a dance in town on Christmas Eve. The men are going. That sounds nice for them. I was hoping. Perhaps you would accompany me. I have a sleigh. Lin Mai looked down at her faded cheongsam. I have nothing appropriate to wear, Ethan. I would shame you. You could never shame me. He stood up and went to a chest in the corner. He pulled out a bundle. This is wool fabric. Navy blue. I bought it in town last week. I noticed you were shivering. Lin Mai touched the fabric, tears pricking her eyes. Thank you. She spent the next night sewing, creating a dress that blended her traditional style with Western practicality, a high collar but with a full skirt and warm lining. On the day of the dance, a blizzard began to roll in. The sky turned a bruised purple. Storm's coming, Gus warned. A bad one. We need to get the herd to the South Valley, Ethan said, his face hardening. Forget the dance. We have work to do. The men rode out. Lin Mai stayed behind, preparing for the worst. The wind began to howl like a banshee. Snow slammed against the house. She kept the stove roaring, boiling water, baking bread, making gallons of coffee. Hours passed. The men returned in groups, frozen and exhausted. But Ethan didn't return. He went after a stray calf near the ridge, Toby said, shivering violently. He sent us back. He is a fool, Lin Mai said, fear gripping her heart. She paced the kitchen. The clock ticked. Midnight approached. The storm raged. Finally, unable to wait, she grabbed a lantern and a heavy coat. Mrs. Lin, you can't. Gus shouted. I am not letting him die in the snow. She opened the door and was nearly blown back. But then she saw it, a faint light in the distance. A horse stumbling. She ran out, the snow waist deep. Ethan fell from his horse just as she reached him. He was blue-lipped, clutching a shivering calf. Ethan! She dragged him up. Walk! You must walk! With a strength she didn't know she possessed, she helped him to the porch where the men grabbed him. They got him into the kitchen, stripped off his frozen clothes, and wrapped him in heated blankets. Lin Mai sat by his side all night, rubbing warmth back into his hands, whispering to him. You are stubborn, she whispered. You ask for laughter, then you try to die and leave us crying. Toward dawn, his eyes fluttered open. He looked at her, his vision clearing. Margaret. No, she said softly. It is Lin Mai. Lin Mai, he rasped. You came out. In the storm. Someone had to fetch the boss. He reached out, his hand covering hers. I thought I saw an angel. Turns out it was just a stubborn cook. Rest now. By Christmas morning, the storm had broken. The world was buried in white, peaceful and silent. But inside the ranch house, it was warm. The smell of roasting ham and spices filled the air. Ethan came into the kitchen, walking slowly but steadily. The men were already there, drinking coffee. They fell silent as he entered. Merry Christmas, Ethan said. Merry Christmas, boss, they chorused. Ethan turned to Lin Mai. She was wearing the navy dress she had made. She looked regal, beautiful, and entirely at home. Mrs. Lin, he said formally. Can we speak in my office? She followed him. He closed the door and turned to her. Your trial period is over, he said. I see. Shall I pack my bags? That depends. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. On whether you want a promotion. A promotion? I don't want to cook anymore, Lin Mai. I want a partner. I want a wife. She stared at him, stunned. Ethan. We are very different. People will talk. Let them talk. You saved my life. You saved this house. You brought the laughter back. He opened the box to reveal a simple gold band. I love you. I think I have since you threatened me with a ladle. I am a widow with nothing, she whispered. You are a woman with everything I need. He took a step closer. But there is a condition. She smiled, tears spilling over. The laughter? That you promise to keep seasoning our life with it. Even when the cattle stray, even when the winter is long. I promise, she said. I promise to fill this house with so much laughter you will beg for silence. Never, he said, and kissed her. They were married that afternoon in the main room, with Toby as the best man and Gus giving the bride away. It wasn't a traditional wedding, but as they stood before the fireplace, hands joined, Lin Mai knew she hadn't just found shelter. She had found a home. The years that followed saw the Double Bar Ranch flourish. They faced hard winters and droughts, but the house was never silent again. It echoed with the sound of boots, the smell of spices, and above all, the sound of laughter, a recipe for happiness that could withstand any storm. The story of Lin Mai and Ethan teaches us that love and family are not defined by blood or shared origins, but by the willingness to weather the storms of life together. It reminds us that resilience is not just about enduring hardship, but about maintaining the capacity for joy and laughter even in the darkest of winters. Lin Mai's journey shows that forgiveness of the past and the courage to embrace a new future can turn a house of ghosts into a home of warmth. Ultimately, it is a testament to the fact that while survival requires strength, true living requires an open heart. What did you think of Lin Mai's bravery in facing the blizzard to save Ethan? Do you think you could have started over in such a harsh place? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this Christmas tale of love and courage, please subscribe to the channel for more stories from the frontier. Thank you for watching.